Hello and welcome. My name's Sam and this is the Little Greenhouse Creates. Thank you for joining me today and welcome to our final card, Funky Fold Friday, for seasonal celebrations. So this is the stamp set we've been working all week with, the 13 images. You've got, as it says, it's a seasonal. So you've got Easter, you've got birthdays, you've got St. Patrick's Day, you've got graduation, you've got St. David's Day or just spring. And you've also got these beautiful hearts which you could use for anniversary or Valentine's Day, which obviously is just gone, and then you've got these beautiful flowers. So let's bring in our card for today. As I said, it's Funky Fold Friday, so it folds flat for postage, and then when the recipient receives it, they lift this corner up and pop it down. So it's classified as a book fold diamond card. So as you can see, it's more of a pyramid, I suppose. So it stands, when it's, let's do it that way, when you stands on the mantelpiece, it will look like that, but as I say, for postage it lays flat. So let's bring in the supplies. Now don't worry, there are a lot, so I will have them on my blog, all the measurements. So let's go for what we've got. Let's pull these all apart for a second. So the first piece is our base card, which measures 4 inches by 11, which we'll score in a moment. Then I've got a piece of, so that was shaded spruce. This is Coastal Cabana. This is 3 3/4 by 3 3/4. Then I have a 3.5 by 3.5 piece that lays over the top. Then we have got designer series paper. Just trying to break these all up so we break them to you easily. Right, so again, we have 3 3/4 by 3 3/4 of the designer series paper. Now, this designer series paper is called Garden Poetry. And then I've got a 1 let's have a look, 1 1/8 by 3 3/4. That will fit into there. Then we have a sentiment for the outside, which is this section here. So this is 1 inch by 3.5. Then you've got 3/4 of an inch by 3 1/4, and then you've got 1/2 inch by 3. So that's for the sentiment that will go on the spine. And then this bit is 1 1/8 by 2 1/8 by 1 and by 2 inches for the inside sentiment. I have used Spotlight on Nature for my dies. So that's these ones here. I've used the larger one for the Poppy Parade. Now that came out of a 4-inch square. Then I've used Coastal Cabana for the next layer. That was about a 3.5-inch square. And then I've got my white, which I used for a scrap. So we have all of those. So the first thing we're going to do is, as usual, to start with all the stamping. So that's that bit there and that bit there. The other white piece is a standalone. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to put our daffodil on there. I have got the stem and the head. Now the stem is going to be stamped in shaded spruce. I'm going to work out roughly where the head's going to go. So the head we want fully on the circle, so that the stem is going to come down the bottom. So let's ink that up. That looks okay. Perfect. And then I'm just going to bring it down here, down the bottom, straight down, oops, and straight up. There we go. So there's that bit. And then we can bring in the crushed curry for the daffodil head. So let's stamp that up. Make sure it's covered. I think we're there. And I'm aiming for this stem to come into this section here. Give that a bit more. There we go. So I'm aiming for it straight down. And there you can see you've got it's in the right place. I could have brought it down a touch more, but we can live with that. Then I've got the happy birthday from the Simply Said. It hasn't gone straight on the block, so let's put that on the block straight. I'm going to stamp that in the shaded spruce, and that goes on the long sentiment strip. Got a bit of a rough edge there. If you ever find your paper's got a bit of a rough edge, take your bone folder and just run it down the edge, and that will flatten that rough edge for you. There we go. Right, happy birthday goes there, straight down. There we go, happy birthday. And then I'm going to use the, so this is called It's Your Day. It comes from the Cone Flower Celebrations, and I will mark that up in the supply list. And I'm trying to decide, I think I will do it in the shaded spruce. Let's stamp that up, and that goes straight down and straight up. There we go. So that's all the stamping out of the way. Now it's a case of putting the actual card piece together. So let's do our layers first. So using my multi-purpose, I'm going to layer this onto that piece. I wouldn't believe it was the same glue I used on Wednesday. That's pretending it's not got anything in it. It has. Right, let's make that sure that's central. Oops, she said, and then moves it. Perfect. Then we can bring our flower in. And that stands there. Perfect. Lovely. Then we've got our 1/8 by 2/8 backing for our inside sentiment. Perfect. Then we've got our happy birthday, which goes on to our 3-piece sentiment strip. So this is the one that's 1 by 3.5. And you've got the 3/4 of an inch by 3 1/4. There we go. And then I've got my 1.5 inch by 3 to go on the top. There we are. Straight over. Perfect. Okay, and that's that piece. Oh, one more piece to layer. So this is our 3 3/4 square by our 3.5 square for the inside. And then we have, oops, there we go, layered our layers. Make sure that's straight. Perfect. So the thing to do now is to score our main piece. So let's bring in my scorer. So the first thing we need to do is to score it at 5.5 inches. That's 5.5. And I've got my score blade and score it. I'm then going to bring it down to 4 inches, which is there, and score it. Okay. Then what I'm going to do, from my 4-inch score mark, which is this one here, I'm going to diagonally score it up to the top right-hand corner. So you're going to make sure that that edge is right in the slot, and so is the score mark. Make sure it is. See it? And then I'm going to score it diagonally. Okay? And that is all we need to do for the diagonals. I'm going to bring in our bone folder and we shall now do some scoring. So the 5.5 gives us the fold for the book. We've got this bit here, which is the 4-inch mark, which we're going to fold. We're going to glue that section down. straight down. Give that a burnish with the bone folder. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're now going to fold this diagonal back on itself. Okay, so you can fold it over and then fold it back on itself, and you can burnish. Okay, it's going to look like that when you folded it. It will stand up like that, but again, it's flat. Okay, then we've got our 2 pieces of designer series paper. The first piece is going to go across here, and the second piece will go onto here, but we will have to cut it first. Just want to make sure I've got it, that's the way around. Right, okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to cut it diagonally. So bottom left by top right, making sure that it is in the right hole. Get rid of the score mark, and then we can come straight in with our, there we go, our cutter, and cut it. So now we have 2 triangles. The top piece will go onto there. So let's glue that. Actually, let's use our Stampin' Seal. That's going to go on there. So. Okay, so that will go into there and fit nicely. Perfect. That now matches that, so we can add this. And then goes and levels up like so. And then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to pop this into the bottom. So let's Stampin' Seal that one up as well. Let's fold that over. Right, and then that's going to go in that section. Making sure that we've got a border all the way around. There we go. So that is the mechanism of the card sorted. So we're going to fold it over, and we're going to stick down our 3 3/4 inch square onto here with the glue. Okay. So that fits in there rather nicely. In. Then we're going to do our middle section. Now this is this section here. We are going to try and get this as central as possible, but we don't want to glue this side. We're just gluing this side because obviously it wants to stick on there. So what I'm going to do is turn it over, and we're just going to go across here with the glue. Okay, turn it back. And then what I want to do is I'm going to, before I stick it down, make sure there is no glue on the other side. A tiny bit there, let's wipe that off. Okay, and then we can push that into place and hold it. Okay, I can rub that bit off the glue that's there with my glue stick. We're now going to stick down our sentiment for the internal sentiment, and this is so that we can work out where that's going to stand. So that's roughly where we want to go. So I'm going to put dimensionals on that. So put it there. Let's grab my dimensionals. We're just going to put 1 in each corner. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, take my bone pick tool, take the backings off. There we go. I'm going to hold this where you particularly want it, and then we're going to make sure that this corner lines up with this corner. So we just hold it down, and you're going to put it in. What you are going to make sure is that it's not going to come over the edge. I'm just going to bring that back a tiny bit. There we go. doesn't go over the edge, that's fine. Okay, and then that's going to sit there, and it'll obviously you won't see it when it's closed, and then it can stay like so when it's opened. So the last thing to do now is to put our sentiment on the outside. So once you've got all the pieces, this card comes together really quickly and really well. But visually, it's stunning. Really like this fold. Okay, so 1 and 2 cards. So we have got our 2 cards. Let's turn those up so you can see them properly. That look like that. And that is our funky fold for this Friday. So thank you ever so much for joining me. I hope to catch up with you next week when we have a new stamp set. Have a wonderful week, and I hope to catch up with you soon. Take care. Bye.